Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, and I wanted to take a few minutes to honor this great man who sacrificed so much for his people and his nation. Now, Martin Luther King is not just an individual. He represents a collective people. He represents a struggle of a people. He represents everything that we have fought for in this country. This is a brave and fearless brother. He faced police dogs. He faced fire hoses. He faced lynch mobs. He faced angry, hostile, racist crowds and police officers. He didn't face them with guns. He faced them with his courage, with his convictions, with his love for freedom and his love for justice. And for that, I commend the brother, because I couldn't be nonviolent. If I was born in that era, I probably would be dead or in jail. So I have to commend a brother that has the strength to resist against violence without actually engaging in violence. This brother fought for human dignity and respect. There was a time when African Americans were second-class citizens in this country. There was a time when we were segregated and humiliated. There was a time when we had to sit at the back of the bus. There was a time when we couldn't go to certain hotels and restaurants. There was a time when we saw signs that said for coloreds only or whites only. Signs that said no coloreds, no dogs, and no Jews. Those were times of oppression. And those are times that our parents and grandparents still remember. So the brother Martin Luther King fought against that kind of injustice. He fought. And because of his collective struggle, because of the struggle of him and all the countless other unknown people, we are able to enjoy a certain level of freedom that our ancestors did not enjoy. Not only did the brother speak out against racism, he also spoke out against war at a time when it was unpopular to do so. When other civil rights groups and civil rights leaders were trying to accommodate power, when they were trying to get along and they tried to, do what was necessary to not upset the powers that be. This brother Martin Luther King spoke out against the Vietnam War. This brother spoke out against poverty. He fought to end the economic injustice that exists in this country. And for those things, I salute and I commend this brother. And I will remember the brother, and I encourage you all to celebrate his life and his legacy. As a result of his work and the work of all the countless other civil rights workers, we are able to enjoy freedoms that we take for granted. We're able to go to any hotel that we want to. We're able to go to any college that we are admitted into based on our credentials. We are able to go to any facility and use it. And there's plenty of struggle left for us to fight. But we are able to enjoy many freedoms that our parents and grandparents were not able to enjoy during the early part of their lives. So we have to recognize the greatness of this brother, Reverend Dr. King, and recognize the greatness of his example and of his sacrifice. And the best way, to recognize Reverend Dr. King is not to idolize him, is not to worship him, but is to follow his great example, to follow the example of activism, to follow the example of speaking truth to power, to follow the example of being courageous in the face of injustice. We need to continue the fight against racism, continue the fight against police brutality, continue the fight against war and poverty, continue the fight against this modern day Jim Crow system that Michelle Alexander has talked about in her book, The New Jim Crow. She talks about mass incarceration and about how the war on drugs is a war on black people. Those are issues that we need to be concerned about and actively addressing as individuals and as a collective. And as Kwame Ture said, every single one of us, if we are concerned about the plight of our people, we need to join an organization that is fighting for black liberation. We need to join an organization that is doing something in the community. It's not enough to sit back and talk about issues. It's not enough for us to post YouTube videos and talk about issues. It is not enough for us just to complain. We need to be engaged and we need to be involved in the struggle to improve the conditions that exist in our communities. Also, one thing that's very important about King's legacy is his stance against violence. And I mentioned earlier that King opposed war in Vietnam. He spoke out against the military-industrial complex. He spoke out against militarism and violence committed by the United States. And we need to continue that tradition. We need to speak out against the war in Afghanistan. We need to speak out against the bombing of innocent civilians around the world by this United States government. We need to speak out against those issues. We need to speak out against the NSA violating our right to privacy. We need to address those issues like King addressed the issues of his day. King was not like many of these so-called leaders of today. King was a man of the people. He wasn't interested in trying to get on TV. He wasn't interested in having his own television show. He wasn't interested in making money off of the struggle. He wasn't interested in getting deals for his children. He was interested in fighting for freedom for his people. And we need to have that same kind of genuine interest for our people. We need to speak out again against war, against violence. And a great place for us to start to speak out against violence is right in our communities, right in Detroit, right in Baltimore, right in Chicago, right in Philadelphia, right in New York. That's where we need to speak out about peace. We need to celebrate King's life and legacy by having a day of peace. Let us have peace for one day. Let's celebrate Martin Luther King Day by putting down the guns for one day. Let's have one day in America where another black man is not killed for nothing, where brothers and sisters are not killing each other over turf and over drugs and other issues in the community. Let's just have one day of peace in honor of King. And one thing that I want to talk about before I leave is this whole lack of respect that our generation has, or actually the younger generation. There's been a lot of news about young people having parties, celebrating the day off, basically. They're not celebrating Martin Luther King's life. In fact, they are demeaning his legacy. They're putting up flyers that depict Dr. King as a thug, as a rap artist, as a gangster, as some kind of hooligan or something. And I can't blame the young people for doing that. I have to blame the parents for not continuing to instill in the people the importance of King's legacy. I have to blame the parents for not educating the young people about how important the brother's life was and how important his legacy is. We have to educate our children about Martin Luther King and about the struggle of our parents and grandparents. We have to do it. We have to take our children to see films about our experience as a people. We need to let our children know about the important books they need to read in order to understand their history and their importance and place in the world.